Your soulmate is holding a secret that affects you directly. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because your soulmate recently stumbled upon something they never expected to find. Not a hidden document. Not a shocking message. Not a dramatic revelation. Something much quieter. Something much deeper. Something that slowly grew until it became impossible to ignore. And listen to this. At first, they didn't recognize its importance. Life was busy. Responsibilities demanded attention. Days passed quickly. Weeks seemed to disappear. Everything felt normal. Predictable. Routine. Yet beneath the surface, something unusual was happening. A realization was forming. A realization that began as a tiny question. A question they couldn't quite answer. A question that kept returning whenever the world became quiet. Because your heart needs this right now, because some questions arrive for a reason. Your soulmate was about to discover why. And listen to this. One evening, after a long day, they finally had a moment to themselves. No distractions. No obligations. No noise. Just silence. And for the first time in a very long while, they allowed themselves to reflect. Not on what they needed to do tomorrow. Not on unfinished responsibilities. Not on future plans. On their journey. On their experiences. On the lessons life had been teaching them. And that's when everything began. Because your heart needs this right now, because reflection often reveals truths that busyness hides. Your soulmate was finally slowing down enough to see clearly. And listen to this. As they reflected, memories began returning. Not dramatic memories. Not painful memories. Simple moments. Conversations. Experiences. Lessons. Moments that once seemed ordinary. Yet somehow those moments had survived while countless others faded away. That realization surprised them. Why these memories? Why these lessons? Why now? The questions kept growing. And the deeper they looked, the more they realized something extraordinary. The memories weren't random. The lessons weren't random. The experiences weren't random. They were connected. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning often reveals itself only after enough time has passed. Your soulmate was beginning to see that meaning. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more a pattern emerged. Every important chapter in their life shared something in common. Growth. Not comfort. Not certainty. Growth. The chapters they learned the most from were rarely the easiest chapters. The experiences that changed them most were often the experiences they least expected. The lessons that stayed with them longest were often the lessons they resisted at first. And suddenly they realized something. Life had been shaping them far more than they ever understood. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth is often happening long before we recognize it. Your soulmate was finally recognizing it. And listen to this. As the evening continued, another realization appeared. One that stopped them completely. For years, they had focused on outcomes, achievements, goals, destinations. Always asking, what happens next? What should I accomplish? Where am I going? Yet they rarely asked a different question. A more important question. Who am I becoming? That question changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because life isn't only about reaching destinations. It's also about becoming someone through the journey. Your soulmate was finally paying attention to who they had become. And listen to this. The secret they were carrying wasn't a secret about another person. It wasn't hidden information. It wasn't a mystery waiting to be uncovered. It was a realization. A realization that affected every area of their life. A realization that influenced every relationship. A realization that changed how they viewed themselves. The realization was this. Everything they experienced had helped create the person they were today. Every lesson. Every challenge. Every disappointment. Every victory. Every unexpected turn. Nothing had been wasted. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding the value of your journey changes the way you see your future. Your soulmate's future suddenly looked different. And listen to this. As they sat there, thinking deeply, they began noticing something else. Many of the worries that once consumed them had disappeared. Many of the fears that once felt overwhelming had lost their power. Many of the questions that once demanded answers no longer seemed so urgent. Yet the lessons remained. The wisdom remained. The growth remained. And that realization felt powerful. Because suddenly they understood what truly mattered. Not every detail. Not every outcome. Not every uncertainty. The lessons. The growth. The understanding. Those were the things that endured. Because your heart needs this right now, because time reveals what is genuinely important. Your soulmate was finally seeing what remained. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more grateful they became. Not because life had been easy. Because life had been meaningful. Every chapter contributed something. Every experience taught something. Every challenge strengthened something. And once they saw life through that lens, they couldn't go back to seeing it the old way. The secret continued growing. The understanding continued deepening. The awareness continued expanding. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness changes everything it touches. Your soulmate was becoming more aware than ever before. And listen to this. Late that night, they finally understood why the realization felt so important. It affected every connection they had. Every conversation. Every relationship. Every interaction. Because the more they understood themselves, the more clearly they understood other people. The more they appreciated their own journey, the more they appreciated the journeys of others. The more they learned about growth, the more they valued understanding. And that changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-awareness often becomes the foundation of deeper connection. Your soulmate was discovering that foundation. And listen to this. Before the night ended, one final thought settled into their heart. A thought they couldn't ignore. A thought that felt like the beginning of a new chapter. It was this. Maybe the secret I've been searching for isn't hidden outside of me. Maybe it's hidden inside the lessons I've already lived. Maybe everything I've experienced has been teaching me something important. And maybe I'm finally ready to understand it. The moment that thought appeared, everything felt different. Lighter. Clearer. More meaningful. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives quietly. But once it arrives, it changes everything. And your soulmate had finally begun to understand. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after the realization began taking shape inside your soulmate, something unexpected happened. Instead of fading away, it grew stronger. Instead of becoming less important, it became impossible to ignore. Instead of disappearing into the background of daily life, it followed them everywhere. And listen to this. The next morning felt different. Nothing around them had changed. The same responsibilities existed. The same routine existed. The same world continued moving forward. Yet something inside them felt new. A sense of awareness. A sense of curiosity. A sense that life was trying to show them something important. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes the biggest discoveries begin with a feeling we can't fully explain. Your soulmate was experiencing that feeling. And listen to this. As the day continued, they found themselves paying attention to details they normally overlooked. Small moments. Simple conversations. Unexpected reminders. Tiny experiences that most people would dismiss without a second thought. Yet suddenly those moments felt meaningful. Connected. Purposeful. Almost as if life was quietly highlighting certain lessons. And the more they paid attention, the clearer the pattern became. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness often reveals connections that were always there. Your soulmate was beginning to see those connections. And listen to this. For years, they had viewed life as a series of separate events. One chapter ended. Another chapter began. One lesson appeared. Another lesson followed. Everything seemed disconnected. Random. Unrelated. Yet now they could see something completely different. Every chapter led to the next. Every lesson prepared them for another lesson. Every challenge developed a strength they would need later. Everything connected. Everything mattered. Everything had purpose. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding transforms chaos into meaning. Your soulmate was finally understanding. And listen to this. One evening, while reflecting on old memories, they noticed something remarkable. The moments that changed them most were not the moments they expected. Not the biggest victories. Not the most dramatic events. Not the milestones everyone else celebrated. The moments that shaped them most were often quiet moments. Unexpected moments. Moments that taught them something valuable. Moments that expanded their perspective. Moments that forced them to grow. And suddenly they realized why those memories remained. Because they carried lessons. Because your heart needs this right now, because the heart rarely remembers what was merely impressive, it remembers what was meaningful. Your soulmate was discovering what truly mattered. And listen to this. The deeper they reflected, the more emotional they became. Not because they were sad. Not because they were overwhelmed. Because they were grateful. Grateful for experiences they once questioned. Grateful for lessons they once resisted. Grateful for challenges they once wished would disappear. Looking back, they could finally see how much those experiences had contributed to their growth. How much wisdom they had gained. How much strength they had developed. And that realization left them speechless. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude often reveals blessings hidden inside difficult seasons. Your soulmate was finally seeing those blessings. And listen to this. The secret they were carrying began feeling larger than ever before. Not because it was dramatic. Because it was transformative. It was changing how they viewed themselves. Changing how they viewed their journey. Changing how they viewed every relationship in their life. And that included the connections they cared about most. Because your heart needs this right now, because when we change internally, every part of our world begins changing too. Your soulmate was changing. And listen to this. Another realization appeared. One they never expected. They understood that many of the answers they had spent years searching for were already hidden inside experiences they had lived through. The wisdom was there. The lessons were there. The understanding was there. They simply hadn't recognized it. They had spent so much time looking ahead that they rarely paused to appreciate what life had already taught them. Now they were finally appreciating it. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom often arrives through reflection rather than prediction. Your soulmate was reflecting deeply. And listen to this. As the night grew quieter, they asked themselves a powerful question. Why does this secret feel so important? The answer arrived slowly. Because it affected everything. The way they thought. The way they felt. The way they connected with people. The way they understood life itself. The secret wasn't information. The secret was awareness. Awareness of growth. Awareness of lessons. Awareness of how much they had changed. And once that awareness arrived, nothing looked the same anymore. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness changes not only what we see, it changes who we become. Your soulmate was becoming someone new. And listen to this. The more they understood, the less they felt trapped by uncertainty. The less they felt pressured to have every answer. The less they felt the need to control every outcome. Instead, they felt trust. Trust in the process. Trust in their journey. Trust in the lessons life continued providing. And that trust felt freeing. More freeing than certainty ever had. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often begins when trust replaces control. Your soulmate was beginning to trust. And listen to this. As midnight approached, one final realization settled into their heart. A realization they knew they could never forget. It was this. The secret isn't something hidden from me. The secret is something I've been slowly learning all along. Every experience has been teaching me. Every lesson has been shaping me. And every chapter has been preparing me for deeper understanding. The moment they accepted that truth, everything felt lighter. Clearer. More meaningful. And for the first time in a very long while, they felt completely connected to their journey. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after days of reflection, after revisiting old memories, and after finally recognizing the pattern hidden inside their journey, your soulmate arrived at a realization they could no longer ignore. A realization that felt deeply personal. A realization that felt important. A realization that quietly changed the way they looked at every meaningful connection in their life. And listen to this. For a long time, they believed growth was a private experience. Something that happened inside a person. Something that only affected the individual going through it. But the more they reflected, the more they realized something surprising. Growth never stays contained. Growth changes conversations. Growth changes priorities. Growth changes the way we listen. Growth changes the way we understand others. Growth changes the way we show appreciation. And suddenly they understood why this secret felt like it affected more than just them. Because your heart needs this right now, because every lesson we learn eventually influences the people around us. Your soulmate was beginning to understand that. And listen to this. One evening, while thinking about all the lessons life had taught them, they noticed something remarkable. The person they were years ago would have reacted differently to many situations. Different fears. Different priorities. Different expectations. Different assumptions. Yet now, after everything they had experienced, they viewed life through a completely different lens. The things that once seemed urgent no longer seemed urgent. The things that once seemed impossible no longer seemed impossible. The things that once seemed confusing now carried meaning. And that shift affected every relationship they had. Because your heart needs this right now, because when perspective changes, connection changes too. Your soulmate's perspective had changed dramatically. And listen to this. As they reflected further, another realization appeared. For years, they spent so much time trying to be understood that they forgot the importance of understanding others. Not intentionally. Not selfishly. Simply because life was busy. Responsibilities were demanding. Challenges required attention. Yet growth had taught them something valuable. Everyone is carrying a story. Everyone is fighting battles nobody else can fully see. Everyone is learning lessons in ways that often remain invisible. And once they understood that, they became more patient. More compassionate. More thoughtful. Because your heart needs this right now, because wisdom often creates empathy. Your soulmate was becoming more empathetic than ever before. And listen to this. The secret they were carrying wasn't information. It wasn't hidden knowledge. It wasn't a dramatic revelation waiting to shock someone. It was awareness. Awareness that life is constantly shaping us. Awareness that every meaningful experience leaves a mark. Awareness that growth changes the way we connect with people. And that awareness began influencing everything. The way they listened. The way they spoke. The way they approached disagreements. The way they appreciated important people in their life. Nothing felt exactly the same anymore. Because your heart needs this right now, because awareness transforms ordinary interactions into meaningful ones. Your soulmate was becoming more aware every day. And listen to this. As midnight approached, they sat quietly thinking about everything they had learned. The lessons. The memories. The challenges. The growth. The understanding. Everything seemed connected. Everything seemed purposeful. Everything seemed to point toward one simple truth. The quality of our relationships often reflects the quality of our self-understanding. The more they understood themselves, the more clearly they understood others. The more they accepted their own journey, the more easily they accepted the journeys of others. The more they appreciated their own growth, the more they appreciated growth in the people around them. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-awareness often becomes the foundation for deeper connection. Your soulmate had discovered that foundation. And listen to this. Another realization soon followed. One that left them completely speechless. They understood that many of the moments they once viewed as setbacks had actually prepared them for stronger connections later. The difficult lessons taught patience. The confusing chapters taught perspective. The uncertain seasons taught trust. Nothing had been wasted. Every chapter had contributed something valuable. Every experience had strengthened something important. And suddenly the entire story made sense. Because your heart needs this right now, because life often reveals its purpose only after we've lived through enough chapters to see the pattern. Your soulmate could finally see the pattern. And listen to this. The secret felt important because it changed how they viewed what truly matters. Achievements still mattered. Goals still mattered. Success still mattered. But understanding mattered more. Compassion mattered more. Growth mattered more. Meaningful connections mattered more. And that realization changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because our priorities often evolve as our wisdom grows. Your soulmate's priorities were evolving. And listen to this. For the first time in a very long while, they stopped asking, "What am I trying to achieve?" and started asking, "What am I trying to become?" That question changed the direction of their thinking. Because becoming wiser felt more meaningful than simply becoming successful. Becoming compassionate felt more meaningful than simply becoming impressive. Becoming authentic felt more meaningful than simply appearing accomplished. And those realizations began shaping every decision they made. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth becomes powerful when it influences how we live. Your soulmate was allowing growth to guide them. And listen to this. As the night drew to a close, one final thought settled into their heart. A thought they knew they would remember for a very long time. It was this. The secret isn't that life changed me. The secret is that I finally noticed how much it changed me. And once I noticed, I started seeing everything differently. The moment that truth settled into place, they felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Gratitude for lessons. Gratitude for growth. Gratitude for understanding. Gratitude for every chapter that helped create the person they had become. And for the first time in a very long while, everything felt connected. Everything felt meaningful. Everything felt clear. Don't skip. Listen carefully. This message is for you, and your heart needs this right now, because after all the reflection, all the memories, all the unexpected lessons, and all the realizations that had slowly been coming together, your soulmate finally arrived at the truth they had been searching for. Not a dramatic truth. Not a shocking confession. Not a hidden revelation about someone else. A deeper truth. A truth about themselves. And listen to this. For a very long time, they believed life was something that happened in separate pieces. One chapter ended. Another chapter began. One lesson arrived. Another lesson followed. Everything felt disconnected. Random. Unpredictable. Yet after reflecting on their journey, they could finally see something different. Every chapter connected to the next. Every lesson prepared them for another lesson. Every challenge helped develop a strength they would need later. Nothing had been random. Nothing had been wasted. Everything carried meaning. Because your heart needs this right now, because understanding often arrives when we stop looking at isolated moments and start looking at the whole story. Your soulmate was finally seeing the whole story. And listen to this. The secret they finally accepted was surprisingly simple. Yet incredibly powerful. They accepted that growth had been happening all along. Even during difficult times. Even during confusing times. Even during moments when they felt completely lost. Growth never stopped. Learning never stopped. Transformation never stopped. It continued quietly beneath the surface. Day after day. Year after year. Because your heart needs this right now, because growth does not require our awareness to exist. Your soulmate had been growing long before they realized it. And listen to this. As they reflected on everything life had taught them, another realization appeared. For years, they had measured progress the wrong way. They measured success through outcomes. Through achievements. Through milestones. Through visible accomplishments. Yet now they understood something different. Real progress is often invisible. It's found in patience. It's found in wisdom. It's found in understanding. It's found in becoming someone who sees life differently than before. And suddenly they realized they had made far more progress than they ever gave themselves credit for. Because your heart needs this right now, because the most important growth often happens where nobody else can see it. Your soulmate was finally recognizing that growth. And listen to this. The more they reflected, the more grateful they became. Not because every chapter was easy. Not because every experience was pleasant. Because every experience contributed something valuable. The difficult moments taught resilience. The uncertain moments taught trust. The frustrating moments taught patience. The painful moments taught compassion. Every chapter added something meaningful. Every lesson left behind wisdom. And once they saw that, they could no longer view their past the same way. Because your heart needs this right now, because gratitude transforms experiences that once felt heavy into experiences that feel meaningful. Your soulmate had discovered gratitude in places they never expected. And listen to this. One evening, while sitting quietly and thinking about everything they had learned, a thought appeared that stopped them completely. It was this. What if the secret I've been searching for isn't hidden in the future? What if it's hidden in everything I've already experienced? The thought seemed simple. Yet the more they considered it, the more profound it became. Because suddenly they understood that wisdom wasn't waiting somewhere ahead. Wisdom had already been growing inside them. Through every lesson. Through every challenge. Through every chapter. Because your heart needs this right now, because sometimes we spend years searching for something that has been growing inside us all along. Your soulmate had finally found it. And listen to this. Another realization followed. One that changed how they viewed every important relationship in their life. They realized that understanding themselves helped them understand others. Accepting themselves helped them accept others. Being patient with their own journey helped them become patient with the journeys of others. And suddenly they saw how deeply connected everything truly was. The lessons they learned didn't affect only them. They influenced every conversation. Every connection. Every interaction. Every relationship. Because your heart needs this right now, because personal growth never stays personal for long. It eventually touches everything around us. Your soulmate was beginning to see that impact. And listen to this. The future no longer felt frightening. Not because uncertainty disappeared. Because they trusted themselves more. They trusted their ability to learn. Their ability to adapt. Their ability to grow through whatever came next. For years, they thought confidence came from certainty. Now they understood something different. Confidence comes from trusting yourself even when certainty doesn't exist. And that realization changed everything. Because your heart needs this right now, because self-trust creates peace where fear once lived. Your soulmate had finally started trusting themselves. And listen to this. As the night grew quiet, they reflected on the entire journey one final time. The memories. The lessons. The growth. The understanding. The awareness. Everything seemed connected. Everything seemed purposeful. Everything seemed valuable. Even the chapters they once struggled to understand. Because now they could see the role each chapter played. Now they could see the wisdom hidden inside every experience. Now they could see the person those experiences helped create. Because your heart needs this right now, because meaning often becomes visible only after enough time has passed. Your soulmate could finally see the meaning. And listen to this. The final secret wasn't dramatic. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't mysterious. It was simply this. Every experience changed me. Every lesson taught me something. Every challenge helped me grow. And every chapter contributed to who I am today. The moment they accepted that truth, everything felt lighter. The pressure faded. The confusion softened. The need for constant answers disappeared. And peace quietly took its place. Because your heart needs this right now, because peace often begins when we stop fighting our journey and start appreciating it. Your soulmate had finally found that peace. And listen to this. Before the night ended, one final thought settled deeply into their heart. The secret wasn't hidden from me. The secret was hidden inside me. It was growing through every lesson. Strengthening through every challenge. Waiting for me to finally notice it. And once they noticed it, nothing looked the same again. The past looked meaningful. The present looked valuable. The future looked hopeful. Everything changed. Because understanding changes everything.